And that's another one spot. We can remove it. Here. So that we can slideshow.
Very good. All right, well, good evening, everybody. Erik Zimmerman. I'm with the Clark County Sheriff's Office. Been with the Sheriff's Office for over 20 years. Been in enforcement for 17. I've worked a variety of different detective assignments. I was in the drug task force my first stint for a little under 5 years. I got promoted to a sergeant in our agencies as the first line supervisor. Went to patrol for a couple years, and then in January of 2023, I returned to the drug task force as the sergeant. So that's my current assignment, drug task force. And I thought I'd share, who we are, what our team looks like, the things that we encounter in this area, the trends, the biggest problems, the concerns, with also the hope that you all become a force multiplier as far as knowing what to look for, the awareness of what is really the biggest drug problem we're having right now is fentanyl. And I think everybody's probably heard of what fentanyl is, and we really want to push that out and make sure we don't have anybody on, well, what is fentanyl, particularly our youth. So I have a lot of pictures. I have some case successes, photographs, stuff that really illustrate what the drug dealers will do to try to keep us off their tails. So I think there'll be some takeaways. So we'll get going. That's who I am. So we are part of HIDA. It's high intensity drug trafficking area. That's the abbreviation. Implemented by Congress in 1988, where they designated certain areas throughout the country. And what this does for us is it gives us funding through HIDA, anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 a year to help us with case investigations. Our resources, funding to do what we call controlled drug buys from drug dealers, vehicles, surveillance equipment, all the things necessary to make a drug case. So it's nice to have this funding. And I think it's important. It's the I-5 corridor is of great concern. So you can see that's kind of that's where we're at.
I'm gonna grab that and move it. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I better have to move that around, but that's all right. So what is our goal? It's to identify, investigate, disrupt, dismantle, if at all possible, drug trafficking organizations working in and through Clark County. So that's our goal. You'll see in a second when you see our staffing, we have to focus on the big guys, where that just has to do where our focus is. Mid to upper level drug dealers, and right now, because it's so prevalent and it's so important, and the overdoses with fentanyl, we are part of those investigations where we try to, once there's an overdose death, we try to backtrack the source of those drugs, where they came from, who was that person, who was that dealer that provided them to the deceased. So that is also part of our investigation, is fentanyl overdoses. They are challenging. We don't always get to hold that dealer accountable for that death. At a minimum, we want to hold them accountable for drug dealing. So if we can't arrest and charge for the death, and it's very hard, it's very complicated, we want to at least try to get them for a controlled substance possession. All right, this is what our staffing looks like. We have one commander from the sheriff's office. We have one sergeant from the sheriff's office. That's me. And then we have 3 detectives, all from the sheriff's office. This team has changed throughout the years. There was a point in time where there was a second sergeant with the Vancouver Police Department. There was a time where we had Vancouver Police part of us. There was a time when we had State Patrol part of us. There was a time when we had a Homeland Security agent with us, which is important to have a federal counterpart. They have different connections. They have different. It's very beneficial to have a federal partner with us. We have a financial investigator, legal secretary, support specialist, and then an assistant investigator. Equipment manager is also kind of accurate. He does all kinds of things for us. So we're left with 4 to 5 people trying to do our best to accomplish our goals. And it's kind of tough. We hope we can grow and get some more partners back into our team, but this is what we look like right now.
Is the staff, is it just a money issue? I mean, as far as not having somebody from State Patrol or Homeland Security?
Just a personnel issue. Every agency says, I just don't have the person.
Okay, so it's staffing with those different agencies.
Yeah. Yep. And even the 3 detectives and me, in June, we left the drug task force. We got redeployed to patrol, so we're now in uniform and cop cars, fulfilling our most basic obligation, which is responding to 911 calls. So we left the drug task force in June. We are set to return. The dates to be determined, but we are going to return. But we're just trying to get our deputy numbers up. It's nobody wants to hear it, but it's a real problem. The staffing. I have a guy on my squad who worked 4 days on, 4 days off. So he worked his 4 days off. He only took 2 days off because he's working 2 more on overtime, just to help squads maintain a minimum level of personnel. So it's a real problem, but we are hopeful to get back and get doing what we like to do in the task force. Here's some stats. It's in 2019. I think what's most important is seeing the shade of purple on each graph, and what that is, it's fentanyl. Fentanyl pills, or in powder form. But in this area, we most commonly come across as blue pills. And I have some pictures further on in the presentation. But in 19, you can see it's 4%. The drug seized in our investigations. In 20, it's 6. In 21, it's 14. In 2022, I don't have the data. I would safely say it's more than half of what we're seizing, more than half of the investigations that we're involved in. It's probably a pretty even split, meth and fentanyl. Heroin is virtually gone. Heroin users have transitioned to fentanyl pills. It's so much better. It's a better high. It's cheaper. Once they start using the pills, they don't go back to heroin. And you have that supply and demand. There's not a lot of people selling heroin anymore because of the fentanyl pills. So I can't wait. Well, we're not going to have much for 2023 just because we haven't been in business working. But trust me when I tell you, it is fentanyl. That's the main drug. It's completely different than meth. Meth's not going to go away. It's an upper. Fentanyl is the downer, similar to heroin. So that the people that are on that downer are very lethargic. Where meth, they're going to be a million miles an hour. So it's a completely different high, different types of people. Some of them will use both meth to kind of wake up and get going, and then fentanyl pills, but they usually stick to their drug of choice. But that's not 100% of the time. That's what we most commonly see. I kind of covered this already. We still have methamphetamine, huge increase in fentanyl pills. Heroin addicts have transitioned. Fentanyl is the cause of overdose deaths that we're dealing with right now. It's drug trafficking organizations. We're not doing too much with the dealing of narcotics. But again, I kind of talked about this before I got to this slide. Just the uptick in fentanyl. Some drug terms, slang terms. A ball is a quantity that's 3.5 grams. It's also called an 8-ball. So those are some slang terms. An ounce, 28 grams. It's also called a zip. As far as, so this would be an ounce of methamphetamine. It's about the size of a golf ball, a little bit bigger. These two terms, a roll and a boat, those are described to describe quantities of fentanyl. So a roll is 100 pills, a boat is 1,000 pills. When we recover something like that, we just weigh it, because we don't open it up to try to expose ourselves to the risk. So we just weigh what we have, and you can estimate 10 pills is about 1. On the slide, there's pictures of straws, just plastic straws. Those are the most common fentanyl paraphernalia there is right now. A straw and foil. And what they do is they smoke it. I have some more pictures here coming up in the presentation. Some drug prices in our area. If you're all interested, a pound of meth, $1,500. It's probably cheaper than that. An ounce is around $100 to $200. That has changed a lot in my career. 10 to 15 years ago, instead of it being $100 to $200 for the golf ball size, that used to be like $1,200. So it's just inundated with methamphetamine in our area. Fentanyl anywhere around $1 a pill. Of course, this paragraph just kind of shows, the more you have, you get full purchase price. It's similar to going to Costco and buying dish soap by the, buckets that they have there. You're going to get a little bit of discount with that. So drug dealing is the same thing.
That's crazy.
People always ask, how much, what's the quantity? What do people use a day? It's so dependent. People really build up tolerance, and what they started with no longer has the effect that they're still seeking. So fentanyl pills, anywhere from 1 to 10 a day. We've had people tell us that they will use upwards to 20, 30 a day, which is well, here we have 50 pills a day, which is really an incredible number. And what you'll see is any one of those pills can be fatal. They're not pharmaceutical grade. One pill has a different quantity of fentanyl than the next. There's no way of knowing. So it's really risky.
How does it kill you?
Stop breathing. Respiratory. Yep. Can be reversed with Narcan, which we're a strong advocate for. I do have a slide on how you can get it free from the state of Washington. We advocate for everybody having.
What else is that known by? I know I've heard other terms used as far as, I know I'm familiar with Narcan, but there's another product name for that same thing?
Naloxone.
Naloxone. Yeah.
Naloxone, yep.
Okay.
Yep. And it's a nasal spray. These fentanyl users, they know that death is a risk, and it's a real possibility. So if me and Bill are using fentanyl, say we go purchase fentanyl, we're seeing fentanyl users that have Narcan with them. But they totally recognize that it's a possibility. And I'll tell Bill, I'm going to use it first. Here's the Narcan. If I go unconscious, if I die, you save me. And I'll do that for you too. And it's sad when people describe that too. I guess that's just the power of the addiction. that they know that that possibility exists, that they're stuck. So we feel that there would be so much more life lost if there wasn't for the utilization of Narcan and naloxone. It's really common out there, and they have it with them, and that's a good thing. Here's a picture of fentanyl pills. This is what we see in Clark County. I have another photo. It's close up, but they'll be stamped on one side that says M, and on the other side it'll say 30. And they're intended to be counterfeit and just look like oxycontins, but they're not. Slang terms: blues, Skittles, Fetty, powder. So those are the terms that they will use. So if you hear anybody within your family, kids referencing that stuff, that's what they're talking about. On the side, I think it's another cost breakdown of what we touched on that. A pill, it's changed a lot, and they're so cheap now. They used to be $5 a pill, now they're $1. So a roll, 100 pills, 150 to 300 bucks. A boat, 1,000 pills, 1,000 to 27 bucks. This is probably more than 90% of the fentanyl we see is in this pill form, but you can get it in powder. We're seeing some of that on this area too. So this is what the powder looks like. Consistency of sidewalk chalk, and they say it's just more potent. It's better. It's pure, and that's what they're looking for. Some fentanyl users have said, getting a little ahead of myself, but the way they use fentanyl pills, you think they would just swallow them, smoke them, get a little square sheet of tin foil, you drop your pill on it, hold the corner of the foil, you're lighting it, straws in your mouth, and you're ingesting the smoke from the pill. They'll throw a couple pills on there because one's not enough, depending on their tolerance and how much they need. Some of them are telling us that they'll take some of the fentanyl powder and sprinkle it on pills. So this is really scary stuff. This is it's just much more potent than the pills. This is a bulletin the DA sent out. They're making them to be different colors, and I don't know what other purpose that would serve other than just to entice kids to gravitate towards them. So occasionally we see them in these various different colors, but usually they're blue. Usually they're blue that we see here.
Looks like they're industrially made too.
They are, yeah. No, they have it's pill presses and yep. Mainly blue, but we always like to share this. Just we don't want anybody to see a pink pill and go, that can't be it. Yeah.
Does the markings on the pill mean anything?
No, it's
just to make them look.
just like oxys. Yeah, just like oxys. Not left-handed, that's hard. So what is fentanyl? It's a synthetic opioid. They're made by two Mexican drug cartels, the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation cartel. They obtain these chemicals largely sourced from China. And that's DEA data. I can tell you in our investigations that our drugs come up the I-5 corridor. So that's data that the DEA pushes out. Again, we hit on it. They're intentionally made to look like Oxy, Percocet, and Xanax, which are just common pain relievers that a lot of us have even been prescribed and may consider harmless. So when you see one of these blue pills that look the same, and you're a kid, might be tempting and easy for them not to understand the risks that it might be counterfeit. It's not pharmaceutical grade, especially when you're when you're getting it from somebody on the street, it's in a Ziploc bag. Fentanyl's 50 times more potent than heroin. That's a lot, 100 times more potent than morphine. But that's why heroin users, once they try fentanyl, they're stuck. And you know, the drug dealers and the cartels, they now have a customer for life. A little close up. We usually see them kind of this shade of blue. The photos have changed a little bit. It's kind of wider to the right, but it's usually that shade of blue all the way to the left. Again, stamped with an M and then a 30 on the other side. Paraphernalia. Hit on this a little bit. So you'll see picture top left. You see the foil. You see the straw, which is the old ballpoint pen. Looks like the tip part, and then the lighter. And then just dropping the pills on the foil, heat source underneath, and you're inhaling the smoke from the pills. And the foil is going to have that brown streak on it. So if, you know, if you're in the neighborhood or walking around or parking lot, yeah, your car, you see foil that looks like that. That's what it is. For us, if we're doing car stops and we see cars that have rolls of brand new tin foil, an unusual amount, like that would be why. But they'll use the same sheet of foil until it's no longer usable. So, but that's what it looks like. They just don't pop them. You don't get the high. You smoke it, it's instant. It's instant.
You know, how do some of these people figure that out? You know, like smoking, you know, like a low melting point with those things. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
you know, it's just like, how do they come up with those ideas or those methods sometimes? They just do though.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and we,
Yeah.
you know, I think, and I could be off a little bit, but I think years ago with like the oxys, they tried smoking them, but then they started making them with some type of a binder on where they couldn't be ignited to smoke. Try to overcome that, yeah.
What does the M and the 30 stand for?
I think it's milligrams. I don't know the M mark, you know, what
Okay.
that.
Okay, just,
I should know
just to
that.
make it look like,
We'll search that when we're done. I bet we'll figure that out.
well, it may make it.
It
look like
matches Oxycontin.
Oh, okay.
Some of the people that we're in contact with and we deal with, they will tell us. So you have M on one side, on the other side you have a 30 and a line.
Mhm.
They swear that one or the other, they'll say, if you can find the 30s that are under the line, those are better versus the 30 above the line. I don't know whether or not it's true or if that's just we're in luck, but try to tell us that.
I know we used to keep the parking lot at the county. When you park in that parking garage, we used, if you saw something, you just pick it up, and it looks basically like a, you know, Hershey Kiss wrapper or whatever, and so we were told not to touch any of that
No.
stuff anymore, and we just call it into facilities, and they have to do hazmat stuff.
Yeah, when this stuff started coming around like 2018, here, the pills, the new pill form, we were all really freaked out. It was like, don't even be around them, don't touch them. We certainly don't advocate to go pick them up bare-handed, but you're probably gonna be okay. But
Sure, you can't absorb it through your skin?
no, not as we first thought that was a possibility, but it's the fentanyl powder. Yeah, watch out for that.
Then you might have a tendency of, you know, eating something.
Well, I worry about the foil too, because
Yeah.
it looks nasty.
Yeah.
It's not anything you'd want to touch, but
No.
if you were trying to clean up a mess, we stay away from it.
No, that's perfect. No, that's perfect.
122.
So how significant is it in our country, I guess, on the right, the map, so total overdose deaths by state. In Washington were 1,259, Oregon is 615.
Is that annually?
Yes, yes, so I think our number is pretty significant. California, 6,000, Florida, 5,000. But that kind of illustrates the, I guess, how significant the overdose problem is state by state. It's the leading killer of Americans between 18 and 45 years of age. In 2022, it was 110,000 overdose deaths, and they're largely from fentanyl. I guess to put that figure in perspective, we have that number in of 117,000 Americans killed in World War I. That's 2022 information, 110,000 lives. Move that there. This is a slide that shows kids and their thoughts about controlled substances and what they think is most dangerous. So over here on the right, the very top, they've defined these drugs as extremely dangerous. They rank heroin at the top. 54% of them say that that's an extremely dangerous drug. It is, but the problem is they have fentanyl way down here in the middle at 27%, when it really should be at the top. 35% over here on the left don't know enough about fentanyl and its danger. So this, I believe, is from 2022, so it's not that far outdated, but I think there is progress and change in this. So that's what we're hoping for. We need to get this fentanyl at the very top, so there's no mistake in that it's a complete game changer. It's the most dangerous drug to ever hit our streets here.
How was the data gathered? I mean, did you go in schools?
I don't
know. It's a CDC
I
thing?
don't know. This is from it's called The Song for Charlie, and I didn't grab this slide, but I believe it to be accurate. I don't know.
Oh, I'm not questioning
I don't know
its
how they got all
accuracy.
I don't know how they got all of that.
Yeah, I guess the follow would be is what are the, and maybe this is something that we'll address later on, what are the programs in schools that are, trying to teach kids, the same stuff you're trying to teach us.
Right. And I don't know if it's here in Clark County, the sergeant in the drug task force that I replaced just because his assignment was done. He had made a bunch of these presentations in some of the schools. And that got a lot of local media attention. You talk to thousands and thousands of kids. I do know in the state of Washington now, high schools only, if you have above 2,000 students, you're required to have your Narcan. I don't know how much, I don't know what that looks like.
Where it's at.
But at least there's some acknowledgement that we have to be aware of this, and there's some recognition that they know that fentanyl's a problem. So another problem with Narcan is it's usually in a 2 milligram dosage, and really came about to deal with heroin overdose.
Yeah.
Back to fentanyl, it's so much stronger than heroin, where people have to take triple the amount of Narcan, 6 to 8 milligrams, which would be 4 nasal plunges. So what was once making you feel good, like I got Narcan, well, it might not be enough if somebody is really in trouble with fentanyl. Question?
What's that third one up there? There's stimulants, marijuana. I can't read that.
Right here.
No. From the bottom up. The third one up says 27%. What's
Benzos.
the benzos? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
prescription.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't deal with that.
Okay.
We've been told we don't really investigate marijuana at all in our area. Throughout the nation, though, that we've been getting information that marijuana is now being laced with fentanyl. Yeah. And we wouldn't know, we're not seizing it, we're not having it tested because, it's not a drug we investigate in the state.
Are there requirements for people that are selling it legally to make sure that what they're getting is not laced with fentanyl? As far as
That would
marijuana?
be like liquor and cannabis in the marijuana shops, yeah.
Yeah,
And we haven't had, any experience with that, or we haven't had an overdose to our knowledge that came about from somebody saying, oh, I was just smoking marijuana. So we have yet to see that, but we hope we don't. We hope we don't. So why fentanyl? So you don't need land, you don't need crops, you don't need acres, you don't need weather, you don't need rain, water. And once you have your buyer on fentanyl, they don't build anywhere else. You have, heroin, of course, you need hoppy plants and all kinds of land and employees. And then you got to transport it. It's heavy. Heroin is heavy. Takes up a lot of room. Pills, you can have thousands and thousands and thousands of pills, and it doesn't weigh that much. So if you're having that trafficked up in the vehicle, it doesn't take up a lot of room. Easy to conceal. There's not a lot of weight in the vehicle. We had before I was in the task force, probably 2.5, 3 years ago, the guys had a little utility cargo trailer, just a little white utility trailer, had to be 10 feet long, making fentanyl pills in that. They just had what is a pill press, which is how you make these pills. Big hopper, you're dumping your ingredients in there and it just presses each pill and spits it out.
do they have dogs that can sniff that yet?
They do, yep. We want to get one. We want to get one day, but it's just too profitable, too easy. It's a lot easier to make these pills without the risk of.
So is that why, you're gonna do that? I was gonna say, so that's why you don't know what you're getting, because they might just stir up a little bit of it, and so you don't know what you're getting.
No, it's not, they're not pharmaceutical grade. It's not like your prescription that you get from the pharmacist. So this this is a DEA stat. It's good to get this out there. One pill can kill. It's no joke. It really can. Through their laboratory testing of pills that they've seized, the DEA has said that 4 out of every 10 pills has a lethal dose of fentanyl. I've even been told they've changed out and they believe it's closer to 7 now, 7 out of 10. And the lethal dose is the quantity you can see here on the right next to it. And I know at the same time too, I go back to tolerance, but a 16-year-old kid that for the first time, they don't have the tolerance built up. It really is such a great risk.
Does tolerance have anything to do with whether the dose is lethal or not, or is it just?
I think it does. Yeah, I think it does. I mean, you talk to a user who says I use 50 pills a day. How long have you been using? Months, years. They have had to have come across a pill that has a lethal dose in it, to my mind.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can attribute that to is the tolerance that's been built up, I suppose. I don't know. So yeah, 4 out of 10, 7 out of 10 is what they're saying now. It does not take much. This kind of illustrates like the inconsistency in he's running to get the cookies again.
Yeah.
If you really think of like, if every chocolate chip is a piece of fentanyl in these blue counterfeit fentanyl pills, just that helps you visualize how inconsistent they are. When you're looking at chocolate chip cookie batter, each cookie is so much different. So when you're taking one of these pills and they're going to smoke it, you have no idea how much is in there. Some of these dealers will tell a user these are really strong pills, break it in half. When you go back to this, or how do you know that half what is? So it's so inconsistent, so inconsistent. That's the message that we want to try to get out to everybody. Is that you, just because it's, if you line up a pile of pills, they all look the same. They're all the same color. They have the same markings. They're really, that's just kind of a way to visualize it. So we've had some law issues in the state of Washington that have it's impacted our enforcement abilities. Possession of fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, that all used to be a felony arrest, or even the smallest amount. Felony arrest, into the court system, evaluated for treatment options, drug court, where there was some leverage to help with addiction. If you're the drug dealer, oftentimes you don't get afforded the opportunity for drug court. That's what it used to be like before February of 2021. And it's called the Blake decision, where effectively those hard drugs were legalized in the state of Washington for about 2 years. What we were able to do is if we came across somebody that was in possession of fentanyl, they were no longer arrested for a felony crime. We give them a pamphlet that had treatment options on it, seize the drugs, and then encourage them to contact a treatment option.
Was there any follow-up?
Not by us, not by police. We were, and there was, so on the third time we contacted that person, provided they were given resources the first time, resources the second time. On the third time, then we were able to arrest them for gross misdemeanor crime. But I don't know that any of us ever did that. There was no good way to track that I gave Bill one, and then another police agency in the state of Washington.
No report made or anything?
Law reports aren't cleaned up. So it effectively legalized drugs. And that's kind of the truth. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but it showed to us like, well, we're not, it doesn't seem to be a big governmental issue, if that was the position that was taken. So there was a lot of uproar. The lawmakers got together and then were really encouraged strongly to create a Blake fix, because other cities in the state were trying to figure out, can we do our own thing? Can we make our own law? Because this is going to impact the drug problem is no longer being enforced. So the lawmakers in Olympia, they came up with a Blake fix that just recently went into effect. That's my next slide that has it. I'll get to that in a second. This just kind of shows our investigations. Our focus is always the dealer. So this compares what we call possession, controlled substances versus possession with intent. So if we have somebody that has a quantity of drugs, usually the biggest tell is how much do they have. They have a whole lot. That's indicative of the dealer. We're looking at paraphernalia or lack of paraphernalia. If Bill has a whole bunch of drugs but doesn't have any straws, well, it doesn't look like to me that he's consuming these. So he's kind of lining up to be a drug dealer. We would want to do our best to search somebody's phone to see if they have text messages, any communications related to drug trafficking. So that quickly kind of summarizes what we're looking for to distinguish a dealer from a user. And again, our task force is not, we're not focused on the end user at all. We're just trying to do it with the dealer. dealers. The Blake fix. So just happened. It just happened. So during this 2.5 year period of time, we are trying to focus on dealers. The way we usually went about doing that is from the user. So now we've lost our ability to contact a user. We've lost the ability to have any criminal leverage to ask them, are you willing to identify who your dealer is? Are you willing to help us with your dealer? So we lose that with the Blake decision. So they tell us, yeah, keep investigating the drug dealers, which I would agree is what's most important. But we're losing an investigative avenue to do that. So if Bill is a big time drug dealer, and I know he sells drugs too, sorry, what's your name? Chad.
Yep.
Then ideally, I'd like Chad to help me, Bill. But the Blake decision, Chad went away. Now I gotta figure out how do I investigate Bill without Chad taking a very active role, maybe buying drugs from Bill on my behalf. Or even just simply telling me, hey, Bill leaves his house Saturday morning when he goes and gets drugs. I wouldn't know that information without Chad. Yeah, and now we can watch you and stop you when we leave Saturday morning. But the Blake decision hurt us because we didn't have the end user to help us with bigger, mid to upper level dealers.
Yeah, the flip side of that is that Chad's the one that's gonna die.
Yeah. Yeah.
The user, the dealer is, he loses a customer, but Chad loses his life.
And a lot of the dealers, they don't use, they are, square away, it's intentional. So they're not, out of the sorts, making mistakes, conscious of police tactics. So they very often, they don't use themselves. So, yeah, that was frustrating for us. That was the Blake decision. So we came back with the Blake fix. And that's just recent. So what we can do now is, instead of it being a felony arrest, it can be a gross misdemeanor. But this is the direction that we've been given. Deputies are encouraged to offer referral to assessment, treatment, other services, custodial arrests. Custodial arrests and citations into court should be avoided unless no other alternative exists. And I know when the lawmakers made the fix, this was a statement that was made, intended to fill up treatment centers and not jails. So we came back trying to fix it, but
Isn't Portland dealing with this issue also?
yeah, I think they just tried to make it illegal to open air drug use.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I don't know enough to comment on that. You wonder if what the prosecution would look like, is there room in the jail? I don't know what. I know that was passed, I believe. Making that illegal. So this is now where we stand. We can arrest, but it's really, we're making it clear like as a last resort. So the problem is a lot of people we come across when they need some motivation. There needs to be a little friction at times. They need to be pushed in the right direction. They're not going to do it on their own. My task force, the deputies I work with, we don't want a user going away and being locked up. But we want them to get the help from the court system, from the drug court. And now we just drive by them as they're in the tent on the side of the road. That can be kind of frustrating. So this is the Blake fix. They're making it pretty clear that they're only as a last resort. This is not for drug dealers. To be clear, drug dealers, it's always been taboo. You can't be a drug dealer. So the Blake change had no effect on drug dealers. Just our ability to investigate them was hampered. Some of our investigative methods, I hit on it. We're very heavy on the informant. And it's usually, we can offer payment, but it's usually their leverage from criminal charges. They don't have criminal charges and there's no incentive to work for us. So that's really, we're really heavy. And once we have an informant that's identified the drug dealer, we're utilizing physical surveillance, which just means us following people around, electronic surveillance. We have quite a few different things that we'll utilize that will help us with that. GPS, cell phone searching, through search warrants, controlled buys. Very often what we want to try to do is if Bill's the drug dealer, we're trying to find out his pattern of life, where he works, where he lives, all of his cars, with the help of an informant telling us, hey, Bill has all his cars with all his drugs from that car. And so we can start kind of narrowing it down. And at some point in time, at the conclusion of the investigation, typically, we want to get a court order, search warrant, and try to search everything that Bill has, his whole house, all his cars. And do our best to try to locate the items of evidence, which is drugs, cell phone, the assets that he obtained through illegal sales of drugs, which can be money. But yeah, some of our investigative methods I wanted to hit on. I guess the informant value to the community. We can be the best cops in the world, but we're not in the criminal subculture. We don't have 10 years of associations with some of these people that are up to various things. So we'll task them to help us in the drug world, but it is so often that they'll call and say, hey, I heard who did that shooting, or I know this guy who's out doing burglaries and he's got a bunch of stolen stuff. It's information that I would never ever be aware of driving around in my marked police vehicle. And I've been in 3 different detective assignments, and we have to have these informants that connect. I can't go out and build trust with somebody in an undercover capacity. We don't even try it. So it's so critical to our investigations. We've had informants tell us back to the drug investigations, they've specifically told us, you guys need to look in the bullet wall behind the TV. Who would never known that? I'd never been in that house, but that person had, and they knew that because they were close to that drug dealer. So informants are so important to us. Back to the Blake thing, it kind of hurt us because we lost a lot of those people. We literally had to cancel and sign them off and tell them, hey, sorry. The jails were releasing as a result. Anybody who was in jail for possession of fentanyl, heroin, they were released. So I know some of the intent was, this isn't a law enforcement problem, it's a treatment problem, but it does impact our ability to investigate the big guys. It really does. So Narcan naloxone, this is a website. You guys want to note it down if you have interest in get some for yourself or sharing it with somebody. Nextdistro.org. You sign up, you put your name in there, state of Washington, email address. I think there's an age bracket. They're probably tracking the data of who's asking for this. I've used it. It comes directly to your mailbox. It's in a box of 2 dosage, and they're nasal sprays. They're each 2 milligrams. I've had my kids get on there and get some. I have it in my house. I have it in each of the cars that we own. My kids have it in their cars with other. You kind of The stuff I see on patrol, they have stuff to patch up wounds and tourniquets and my kids laugh at me. Yeah, but this is very, very important.
What's the expiration date on something like that, do you know?
It probably wouldn't even
I don't think it's
apply.
like milk. You can probably use it for a while.
It wouldn't
Yeah, I
even
think they probably
apply.
it's just less effective. You can still jam it in somebody's nose and
Yeah.
squeeze it. I didn't use that website, but I used a different one. I
Did you?
I
Okay.
got some like a month ago. Yeah.
Good. There's a injection, just, we don't need that. We'll just get the nasal. I think there's a selection on your nasal or
Yeah.
or needle. And we are being taught, we're telling people, if you think it's a fentanyl opioid overdose, use it. It's not gonna hurt anybody. Not gonna hurt them. I mean, if you're walking through Costco and there's somebody down, like, you know, that's probably not it, but look at other factors, surroundings. Do you see a piece of tinfoil? Do you see remnants of a little blue pill? Those are gonna be the obvious signs. But anybody of an unusual age, they're unconscious. We're thinking it's fentanyl, and we're gonna utilize Narcan. It's not gonna hurt them. So it's a way you can pick it up and get it for free sent to your house.
So if they're not, even if they're not breathing, you spray it in their nose?
Sometimes they're right up.
Yeah.
They're right up. And a little confused, combative,
Mhm.
mad that you stop
ruined
their
it.
high.
Mhm.
Yeah, Narcan and heroin, it's when it was with the fire department, it was almost immediate.
Yeah.
Immediate and sometimes violent.
Now, but we keep reading and seeing, and it's 3-4 doses. It's not just that single dose anymore. So here's some symptoms of fentanyl overdose: small pupils, slow, shallow, irregular breathing, passing out, choking, gurgling, limp. Obvious is unconscious. And then, you know, we just talked about it. Look in their area. Do you see the tinfoil? Do you see a straw? Do you see a blue pill? Are they unusually young for somebody that's having a severe medical emergency? Just treated for the most part. This is a possibility. This is what it looks like. It's a box, and then you get 2 of these. I think I was saying 2 milligrams. They're 4 each. There is 2, and now they've upped it to 4 because it's so strong. And they've obviously recognized that 2 milligrams isn't as effective as it needs to be. This was a stat I kept kind of seeing pop up. I think I did my best to fact check it. So I'm pretty confident in it. I saw this on King 5 in King County, where Narcan was used 42 times in Washington State schools in 2022 and 2023. At the bottom, I've notated that the survey is optional for schools, so it might not be the best to have. So it's got to be more than 42. But those all could have been deaths if they didn't have the Narcan in their schools. Here's some stats from our team. In yellow highlight, you see from 2021 to 2022, the amount of pills that we seized, 19,000 versus 137.
Oh,
Meth, kind of the same. Heroin, 7 pounds. This was pretty low. Stats are hard to totally capture the problem. I could pull over one car in the year of 2023 and totally skew all this because they had the mother load. But this really illustrates the fentanyl pill problem. So that shows our seizures. We're gonna wait time. Okay. We can speed this up. This is just us bragging and kind of showing some trophy shots. 18 pounds of methamphetamine. It was hidden in a car, coming up I-5, and then the dog alerted to it. So 501, they have it written on all the bags. It's got a marking designating that that's their drugs. We never really figured out what that totally meant, but it was pretty intentional. This is meth package, bottom right picture. Those are probably kilo quantities, which is 2.2 pounds. Top left meth was inside of a tire. I think the person involved eventually told us that. Again, how would you really ever know? The dog can help, but it's so important to have that specific information. We got to tear cars apart. We hope we're right when we do it because we're damaging the cars. Top right, center console, there's a void. There's a bunch of methamphetamine in there hidden. Under the car, they'll cut out, fabricate a steel plate, bolt it back on after they've put their drugs in. And these are all transport cars that have come up the I-5 corridor that we get information on and then interdict. And this one was, we got 31 pounds in that. Fentanyl pills. This is a huge amount of pills. So this is like a seizure that will kind of skew your data. That's 100,000 pills. It only weighs 23 pounds. So I don't know if I did the best job of explaining why these are so profitable now. That's 23. That's no weight at all for 100,000 doses. If you try to compare that to heroin, you can have like a truck full of heroin. Try to be the equivalent of those pills. So 100,000 pills, if you go back to the DEA data, 4 out of every 10 contain a lethal dose. 40,000 of those contain lethal doses. So that was stopped on the way up. That was going to be distributed here in Clark County. That was in 2022. Just another, this is a fentanyl meth dealer. He had 13,000 fentanyl pills. He's still awaiting adjudication on his case. He was charged and arrested. This was a pretty recent one, 6 to 8 months ago. We come across firearms quite a bit when we're dealing with drugs. So this guy had 6 firearms, 2,600 fentanyl pills, 3.5 ounces of that. Body armor. I think we charged this guy federally. It's kind of more of a lucrative case for the feds with a combination of firearms and drugs. This is all methamphetamine. Maybe quantity, I don't know if that's 22 pounds. The methamphetamine we get coming up from down south, it's like 100% pure. It's really good quality. And what dealers will do is they'll buy MSM, which is it's for animals, primarily for horses. You can see these buckets up there. And what they'll do is they'll add MSM to that very pure methamphetamine. It gives them a greater bulk, more profit when they sell it. Purity goes down a little bit, but that was our drug dog, Piper. She retired. This was a car that went down to California. We stopped it back up here. We knew that this would all be in there. 37 pounds of methamphetamine, 35,000 bucks in cash, and 2,000 pills. So we probably kind of seen a trend. If we know that they're going down to California or it's coming up to them, we are trying to stop it before it gets to a house, repackaged, distributed. We don't want it to, if we don't know much about these particular people, we don't want it to land here. So we try to do our best to stop it. I like this one, Just Married. And they really weren't, it was just to try to throw us off on I-5. And I think if you look at it, you go, oh, they're fine, nothing going on. But no, that wasn't true. They were bringing 25 pounds of methamphetamine. You have to take that bumper off, and then there was a steel plate covering that void. It was all cheap. So the dog alerted, and we just had to keep chipping away, trying to figure out where it was at.
So would you always just have a drug dog in the car, or is that something was off and you were like, we need a drug dog to come check this car out?
We were pretty confident on this one.
Oh, okay.
With the investigation.
Okay.
Information.
So most of you're aware ahead of time. Okay,
Quite often.
interesting.
Yeah. Quite often we are. But not always,
Yeah.
not always. So this is under the, like a front driver's seat. Take the driver's seat out, there's a plate. There's a huge void in this particular car full of methamphetamine. And this is how much was in there.
Oh my
So you had to take out both front seats, driver's seat, passenger seat. 57 pounds, that's a lot. That's a lot. I have no direct knowledge on this one, because marijuana it's so easy, prevalent, there's nobody in Washington, it's no big deal. They're still shipping it out east and selling for big profits. Guys will be using Amtrak back and forth, or selling it and receiving funds through different electronic transfers. UPS will call us, say, hey, we got a bunch of marijuana that's destined for New York, various places that are still illegal. So New York's probably legal by now, I'm not sure. But occasionally we have to deal with this. But it's not our focus, and we only get involved when we kind of have to, if we're called by UPS or Amtrak or any other entity. Just more drug paraphernalia, guns. The package, this is the most common packaging you can see. It's always really tight like that. Usually not the big Ziploc bags. They usually keep it real tight, compact for whatever reason. Just guns, drugs. Lots of money. 193,000 cash,
Oh,
all
my
from drug sales. So we can make attempts to forfeit proceeds from drug sales if we can prove that that's where it all came from. It can be pretty easy if the dealer says, yeah, I don't work, I've never worked, I don't have a job, and we can track through. We have a financial investigator that's got all the connections to shake that down and check it out. So we will try to seize those funds and repurpose them, and at least make sure he doesn't continue his criminal enterprise with all that money. Club drugs, I mean, I guess we kind of come across it. We don't have a whole heck of a lot of interest or focus in it. I think this in the middle is like LSD on water paper. It's just not something we come across with a lot in our area. Down here, this is a drug dealer all the way, not a personal user, because he's got it all packaged up individually, set for sales. So if you were to tell me, oh, I'm just a user, no, you bought a big bag and you went through the time to repackage in smaller quantities, so you're ready. When you're getting those buyers calling you, you're ready to go. You can just hit it. Here's your 50 bills. What's going on? More fentanyl, more guns. I think this was steroids too in the middle. Again, I wasn't involved in this one, but I think the red cases, it's all steroids. This is 156,000 cash. It started from an overdose death. And we said, this guy, we think had something to do with it. At this point in the investigation, we're not able to charge him with that, but this was a very good outcome. He's being charged federally for all these drug and firearm possession. That's how we got to. Drug trends, we've been at it for 3-4 months, but from my understanding, it's just fentanyl, still fentanyl. We have I've been told that we also have fentanyl in combination with what's called xylazine, which is a horse drink likely.
Oh, geez.
So users are using fentanyl and xylazine. And I have some contacts like in the recovery community, and I asked them, since we're dealing with the dealers, we don't, I think our information sometimes is different than the end user. But he had told me, no, that we have people that are on that. They call it trank dope, but it's xylazine in combination with fentanyl. And what is scary about it is Narcan doesn't reverse the effects. of xylazine. And it's the people that will have huge open wounds that are using the combination of xylazine.
Jeez.
They're kind of looking like zombies, half standing up, half falling over. So that's a real sad thing. But Narcan doesn't have any reversing effects. So that's really the trend that we have. I don't have anything else, so I assume there's some questions.
There's one in the chat, but I don't have the mouse.
I'm gonna give that to you, because I don't know if I'll. Do it right. What's the reason? Price struck. So much of it. So much of it. So much of it. Demand, supply, it's.
Are you pretty successful with the overdose tests following up? Is it like angry family members that
No.
are reporting them or something?
No, they're really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. We have to do our very best to prove, and rightfully so, that dealer gave the drugs that caused that.
But as far as like just getting a tip, do you usually get tips on overdose tests?
We respond to this, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so patrol is dispatched with fire and EMS. And then we will get notification from them, hey, we're on a suspected overdose test. And we just try to backtrack best we can. Ideally, we like a survivor to be there that says, yeah, we just went, bought this from, and that's a really easy example. We don't get that too often. Because a lot of people just kind of scatter.
Yeah.
Sadly, cars will pull into the ER and drop their friend in there. Or we'll get called to a house, hey, we need next at, meet him here, and we'll get, nobody's there, but just the person that's having a medical problem because everybody's out of here scared.
At least they took the time to call.
At least, yeah.
Cowards.
Yeah. And we always tell people, you know, that the best of our ability, we're not gonna arrest you because we're in possession. This is a major, we're dealing with that. That's where our focus is. Yeah.
Any other questions? Online. Cheryl, Teresa, any questions? No? Okay.
I'm
Well-
gonna stop the recording. And thank you.
Yeah, you
Sergeant.
bet. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hopefully we can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.